Blue rag on my head in a dark blue cut. KC to the front, 05 on my nuts.
Today we're going to talk about one of the most talented and one of the most tragic artists to come out of the legendary Bangin' on Wax movement. Nobody, and I mean nobody out there, has covered as much about Bangin' on Wax as their channel as I have on my channel right here. It's one of my favorite projects. I think that project is so monumental. It's a project that will forever go down in history. And the importance of it, the fact that red team, blue team got together during a time in the 90s where it was crazy. You think it's nuts right now? It was, not even exaggerating, according to numbers, 10 times rougher in the 90s. Red team, blue team going at it. So to get them together for an album was almost unheard of. So I felt, as a hip-hop historian, person who loves hip-hop, a person who loves West Coast hip-hop specifically, also gangster rap, if we're getting more specific, I gotta show love to Bangin' on Wax. But today we're talking about Awol. To many long-time West Coast rap fans, Awol wasn't just another rapper. As many of us believe he was one of the strongest lyricists on the blue side of Bangin' on Wax. His voice, his delivery, and his street credibility helped make those records unforgettable. Unfortunately, as with a lot of people in the street life, his life was cut short before he ever had a chance to reach his full potential. So today we're going to talk about Awol, because we got to give them their flowers. Even though they're not here, we got to give them their flowers. You know what I mean? Keep their stories alive, because they were part of a monumental project. Awol was born in the 70s. Well, he was born in Compton. I don't know if he was born in the 70s, but he was definitely born in Compton. And everyone knows Compton, one of the biggest names in hip-hop. So many artists have come from Compton. Not just artists. Compton breeds a lot of talent. But growing up in Compton, during those times that Awol was coming up, it wasn't easy. It was rough, like I just mentioned, guys. At one point, Compton was the murder capital of the country. Very small city in relation to a lot of other cities. Compton isn't that big of a city, but there are so many hoods and sets in Compton, in that little city, that it's a wonder that there aren't more homicides today, unfortunately. But back then I think 92 might have been when Compton held that title. 91, 92, something like that, maybe 90. It was definitely in the late 80s, early 90s. Compton was a war zone. The city was dealing with all of that, the red team, blue team. Obviously, the crack epidemic, economic hardship. It was rough. So a young Awol decided to get affiliated with Kelly Park, the Kelly Park Compton Crips, one of the city's long-established neighborhoods. I know a lot about Kelly Park. My best friend lived in Kelly Park for years, so I was always at Kelly Park. I was playing basketball at Kelly Park. I remember when they were filming Steady Dipping at Kelly Park. There's so many memories that I have of Kelly Park. And yes, I could vouch that in 1992, 1993, Kelly Park was not a place that, if you weren't affiliated or something along those lines, you probably didn't want to be at Kelly Park past dark. Once that sun started coming down, if you weren't about that life, and I wasn't about that life, I respectfully took my ass home and played video games while some of the other neighborhood kids did what they had to do. Kelly Park had a reputation. A lot of people say Eazy-E was from Kelly Park. You had the Hustlers and you had the Crips, apparently, early on. And Easy was part of the Hustlers. Apparently, people close to him say that that was his affiliation, was Kelly Park. So you can imagine what a young Awol was listening to as a youngster. He was probably listening to Eazy-E, if I had to guess. But other than that, there's not much more about his life before music, before Bangin' on Wax. You know, we know that his close friends respected him. He became friends with all the Kelly Park members. Among them was Tweety Bird Loke. And together, Tweety Bird Loke, Awol, and a host of others became part of one of the boldest ideas in hip-hop history. I can't express the importance of how legendary this was. I kind of understood it when it came out in 93. I was 14. So I kind of got how, oh, this is legendary. Red team, blue team together. That's legendary. I know that they don't get along, but as I got older, I didn't. It wasn't until I got older that I appreciated the importance of that project. It was going down in 1993 when Bangin' on Wax was released. And if you saw the cover, it's like, whoa, what is going on? You had red on one side, blue on one side. They were lighting up a rag. And the project immediately gained national attention because of how unique and obviously controversial it was. And on that project, Awol quickly stood out. His calm confidence, his clear delivery, his natural storytelling made him one of the most memorable voices on the blue side. Many longtime fans, including myself, still point to his verses as some of the strongest on the album. That's an opinion shared by many listeners. And keep in mind, even to this day, a lot of people would say the Red Team took the title when it comes to best rappers, maybe the best beats. But Awol was one that definitely stood out. But one thing that separated Awol from a lot of the rappers on that project and on that time was his delivery. He didn't have to yell. He didn't rely on gimmicks. Instead, he just rapped with confidence. And he came off natural. His lyrics reflected real experiences and not just exaggerated stories. It's amazing that that album was even made and they were saying some of the stuff they were saying on it. I mean, some of the disses, pretty rough. But that authenticity became one of the reasons that fans, including myself, got connected with Bangin' on Wax and connected to Awol. And not only did we have one Bangin' on Wax, we had several. And one of those tapes that was dope was Nationwide Rip Riders. Nationwide Rip Riders. And Awol was part of that movement as well. The music on this project was a little better, some would say. I think this project rivals any Red Side. I think Nationwide Rip Riders is really good. Really good project. But he was on it. And even though Nationwide Rip Riders didn't really reach the commercial heights of a Death Row or a Ruthless, they did build a loyal fan base. A fan base that still is here to this day, myself included, talking about it to this very day. Sadly, Awol's story ended far too soon. On July 4th, 1997, he was involved in an encounter with law enforcement. During that incident, a police officer took his life. Publicly available sources agree that he lost his life in a police shooting. However, some details surrounding the encounter differ depending on the source. But, you know, today, it's crazy how I've done so much Bangin' on Wax material. And one name that constantly comes up in the comments is Awol. Awol, R.I.P. Awol. Awol was dope, man. Hey, you should do something on Awol. So I decided that I'll do something on Awol. And I'm going to keep doing videos on the artists from those projects, Bangin' on Wax, Damu Riders, Nationwide Rip Riders. Because I really think those guys need to be shown some love. And 50 years from now, when none of us are here, some of you might be here. Some of you youngsters will be here, Lord willing. But 50 years from now, when I won't be here, these stories will be here so people can check them out. And if you haven't ever checked out my videos in the past, I would highly suggest you just type in Dusty Vision Bangin' on Wax and something will pop up. I have interviews from many, many artists from the Bangin' on Wax project. Shout out to Sin Loke. If you don't know, Sin Loke was the one with the Freddy Krueger mask. Shout out to Lil Hawk from Damu Riders, one of the illest MCs. Shit, let's just say on the West Coast. I'm not even going to say on that project. I'm going to say straight up off top, Lil Hawk is dope. And he came on my show. I think I did his second interview after he spent 26 years in prison. I have a lot of stuff on Bangin' on Wax, so definitely go down that rabbit hole. And I'm glad that I got a chance to talk about Awol. Once again, not much out there on him, but the fact that I'm showing him some love makes me feel good. Because Awol isn't mentioned as often as most artists, but amongst fans, and there's very few things I'm a fan of, but West Coast hip-hop is one of those things. I'm a fan of West Coast hip-hop. Hip-hop got me through some dark times in my life when I was a kid. When I had nothing, the world seemed like it was crumbling around me. I still had my boombox. I still had the radio. I still had artists. I still had tapes. I still had a lot of stuff. So that's why I love doing shows on these artists. Awol's name still carries weight. I'm telling you, every time I put out a show. Not every time. A lot of the times when I put out shows, that's one of the names that I hear constantly, especially when my shows are pertaining to Bangin' on Wax material. He represented Compton, he represented it to the fullest, and he represented a period in hip-hop that can never be recreated. Ever, 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 ever. Ever. Bangin' on Wax wasn't just another rap album. It captured a moment in history. Real rivals, real neighborhoods, and real stories recorded by the people who actually lived them. And Awol was one of those voices. Although his career was cut short, his music continues to introduce new listeners to one of the most fascinating chapters in West Coast rap history. If you've never gone back and listened to the original Bangin' on Wax albums, they're worth listening to. Not just because of the controversy, but because they preserved the voices of artists like Awol. His story reminds us that talent doesn't always get the time it deserves. Sometimes the biggest what-if stories in hip-hop belong to artists who never got the chance to show the world everything they could do. Thank you for tuning in to Dusty Vision TV. Please hit that like button if you have not already. And if this is your first time joining the channel and you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, you just might appreciate this bonus clip I'm about to play for you right now.
One of the things that happened while we were on COVID lockdown is that my daughter, who had become an adult by this time, had reached out to my sister, and my sister hit my mom, and my mom hit me and told me to call her. So me and my daughter hadn't been talking for some years, right? So I called, and we had a cordial conversation. There was something she wanted to tell me, but she didn't exactly get to it. Right? So, a little time go by, I find out that she was pregnant, that she was about to have the baby, like pregnant. The baby be here in like any minute, right? And so she gave birth to my first granddaughter. And so we started to communicate a little bit, right? And so during this time, I was peaking creatively, writing, painting, drawing, going to school. That COVID lockdown had me on, right? And so I was feeling really good at all things considered. So I get around to calling again, and we talked, and she asked me, she said, she understood that I was young when I got incarcerated the first time as an adult. She wasn't even born when I got locked up. Her mother was pregnant, right? And so when I got out, she was 5. And she wanted to know why, when I got out, I didn't stay out and get out the streets and be with her and take care of her, even though it wasn't going to be a traditional family because me and her mother wasn't together or going to be together, right? And so I could, but I didn't want to really go into detail about the circumstances of my life. Her thing was, you come from a good family and you wasn't that kind of person to be going in and out of prison like that, especially for the type of things you were going to prison for. Armed robbery, and then in this case, bank robberies, a murder, and 2 attempted murders. She just couldn't make that connection, right? And she grew up around my housing project, but she was sheltered. She didn't grow up in it. She has family members that's with it, and she knew a little bit about my past from, her mama's side of the family and people in general that know me from over there that she has ties to. So I don't know what the stories are, but there was no dot to connect to bank robbery and murder. That was just such a, how did this happen type of deal. And I really didn't want to go into the details of my life because I didn't see how that could be beneficial or help her to explain that I was in too deep. Even when I got out, I was in deeper than I was before I went in. And trying to explain that to someone that's not in that with you or from that like that, it doesn't make sense. It's like one of those sitting on Oprah's couch moments where the person asking the questions just have to ask the questions and reserve judgment, and that's hard to do when it's a personal situation. With me and her, this will be a personal thing, obviously. There's no way to detach from the situation and just ask the questions and look at it objectively. That's not going to happen, right? So I didn't see a way around it, so I sugarcoated it, and just told her, how things happened, and tried to move past that. But that was not satisfactory. I didn't do a good job at that, and
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
What hit differently was that when I was out during that time of her life, I was with my girlfriend, who ended up becoming my wife later, but I was with her and her son, who was 4 at the time. We was living together as a family, but I was at the same time interacting with my daughter, so it was kind of like she knew my girlfriend, she knew her son. They used to go out, play together. She spent a night. It was one of those things. I spent as much time as I could when I wasn't running the streets with my daughter. I would see her at least, 3 or 4 times a week sometimes, some weeks, because I was always in LA, even though I was living in Long Beach or Carson at the time. Whether I had to drive out to Altadena and see her at my mom's house, or see her in the projects, or see her in the jungles at her grandmama's house, or whatever. So, and she loved me. Anytime I would step in the room, she'd stop what she's doing and jump in my arms, and I wind up carrying her around till I get tired. And now it was just such a drastic change and all of that. Now that she was an adult, going through her teenage years and becoming an adult and having to grow up without her father, So I kind of just left that hanging like that, and we never talked again. We might have talked maybe once after that, but we never really talked again to this day, And it's just one of those things, like, I don't know. It was a real sad moment in my life, and I'm still dealing with that. I don't think it'll ever be right. There's no way to really make it right. So I asked my mom some advice about it, and she said that, children, they always come back. They'll come in their own time, And she reflected on her own life and explained to me, which I already knew, that she didn't really meet her father until she was like in her late 20s, and she connected with her father, who was living in Texas, my grandfather, and we started going to visit him, and things just progressed from there. And I asked her, how did that happen? It started with telephone calls, and on one of those phone calls, he had told her that when she asked him something similar, why wasn't he there type of question, it was one of those things where he answered that I can't explain the past. I can't justify the past. And we can't live in the past. The only thing we can do is live in the present and enjoy what we got right now. And my mom was mature enough to accept that, and they ended up having a phenomenal relationship for the rest of his life. And so that was the only thing I had to comfort me in the absence of my own daughter. So, I just had to sit with that through COVID, and I stopped writing, I stopped drawing, I stopped everything. Everything kind of just grinded to a stop for me, man, where I was just wondering, like, are we going to ever talk again? And it was just, I started to think, like, what should I do? Should I just write her a letter and explain to her the details of everything that happened, starting way back when? And I was like, that ain't going to do nothing to fix the situation. All I'm doing is rehashing the past. There's no possible way she can understand, or anybody that was not with me on those nights, on those days, that could understand what was really going on. There's people in my community, in that neighborhood, from that gang, that was there, that was around, that don't know. This is things that we didn't talk about. If you wasn't with me, I wasn't with you, you wasn't there when that happened, you might have heard third party somewhere, but you didn't hear it from me. You didn't hear it from the other dude or person that was there. You ain't heard that over here, So it was like, come from a different generation, a different level of that type of criminality, where once it's done, it's done. It's stuff that I've seen people who I was in those moments with since I've been incarcerated, and we never really talked about it. Any of it. Not in detail anyway. It's like, man, why you digging up ghosts? You don't do that. And that's not something that people can wrap their mind around, especially in this generation right now where everything's so public. They'll film themselves doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and then put it on the internet for everybody to know. So it's like, what you being secretive about? What you not saying? What I'm not saying is what should never be said. Something that should have never happened. any of it. My whole life, none of that stuff should have ever happened. The ripple effect of my life was so disastrous that it was like dropping a 5,000-pound, bomb in the middle of the city. That's how disastrous it was, our life and time. In the 90s and early 2000s, in the middle of a race war, gang war with the cops, just madness, chaos, And so I can only blame myself and fault myself. So, because I put myself there, I had many chances to escape. And anytime I did escape, I was drawn back to it. And that's the part that I could never explain to somebody who's never had that pull, that tug on them, to be able to get away from something and be pulled back to it. The only thing that we as human beings know that as is love. When you're in love with someone and you break up with them and you go back to them and you break up with them, and that's what that was like for us, me in particular. I'll use an I statement. That's what it was for me, going back and forth between being free from that and being stuck in that. Like I said, I had a couple of opportunities to break free for good, and I was always pulled back into it. And I didn't know why. I didn't understand why. I just knew that that's where I wanted to be, and that's what I wanted to do, and that's who I thought I was, and that's who I had become. Looking back on it, I don't even want nothing to do with it. I don't even talk about it. Walking it down is the last I'm going to do of talking about it once it's over. So, it is what it is. Shortly after that, that conversation, she wound up pregnant again by her husband, and she ended up having my second granddaughter, two beautiful little girls, man. And I'm still waiting for the day.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
That I'll get to hold them and I get to kiss them. I haven't seen them in person yet. I haven't seen my daughter in person since she was 6. 20 years. I haven't seen her in person.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Stood next to her, put my arms around her. Prison can pull you apart like that, right? And oftentimes the damage is irreparable. And so I had to just sit through it, marinating on that.
I'm only asking you this because, you're from Chicago, and the sound that was originated here is from Chicago. But what are your thoughts on, being someone newly fresh out of prison, and, you're probably hearing music in prison as well. But what were your thoughts on drill music? More specifically, all of the kids who are, killing and dying over it and saying disrespectful stuff and smoking this op and, things like that.
Yeah. Music has always had, as far as me growing up in Chicago, I grew up off Twister and Crucial Conflict.
Conflict, man. Yeah. Smoking on hay.
So, right. But there was always, violent overtones or undertones essentially in the music. But I think what's different about this era versus back then is they really live it.
Correct. They were talking about it. Ice Cube was talking about it. Twista was talking about it on Adrenaline Rush. You know what I'm saying?
But they weren't.
Correct.
Yeah.
And now these guys are not only are they doing it, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Chris, but they're actually telling you in the rhyme what they're doing. So the cops are piecing it all together, and they're just literally snitching on themselves, man.
Right. I live in Atlanta. So it's a big entertainment hub, a lot of performers, a lot of artists. I've been, blessed with the opportunity to start doing these live panels at these different lounges with your girl MJ. Got to shout her out. And in the midst of that, I ended up somehow being in the music lane. So I'm, around A&Rs, I'm around certain people. And you can I just see with music, you have people that are trying to bring forth good music, but the way society's set up, they only want to hear, they just want to hear, drill. That's it. They want to hear Lil Durk. They want to hear X, Y, Z. And the scary part, what I was getting to is these kids are listening to this music. They're getting amped up off it. You know what I'm saying? Society has changed. Back in my day, everybody was a drug dealer. Now everybody's a drug user.
Correct.
There's too many. Everybody's living with like they got reset buttons.
Man,
right? And it's just weird. And I think a lot of it's not just from the drill music. I think it's the Call of Duty culture. And I don't want anybody to hear me think I'm old, because I want to be clear. I listen to Lil Durk. I play Call of Duty. But I feel like if you let certain things, if you look at it the wrong way, then it gets you in trouble. When I listen to music, I used to look at them like actors. Now I'm listening to people and I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna keep listening to you, or X, Y, Z, because I don't even want to be in that place, or and it's just a weird time because I don't know what's gonna shift, what's gonna get the youngins out of the drill era, the drill era. I don't know, the smoking on ops, the op pack. I don't know what gets them out of that, because it seems almost like it's uncontrolled. I don't know, moving train.
Yeah, uncontrolled is probably but there's no grown-ups in the game anymore. All the grown-ups are 18, 19, you know what I'm saying, running the show.
Yeah. You got a couple, but I mean, you got like Griselda and that, but it's a different lane. The lane now, no. And then and I want to say this because I live in Atlanta. The drill music is one thing, but if anybody's hearing this, think about this with the RICO cases and what's going on with Young Thug. And like we were talking about my co-defendants, the only one that didn't snitch on that man is his supposed YFN Lucci or whatever.
Yeah.
It just and I'm not, only reason I know these names and all that now is because I live in Atlanta. I'm watching what the gang task force is doing. I'm watching what the mayor's doing. I'm watching what Fannie Willis, all these people are doing, and these youngins, they gotta tighten up, because while the artist is getting paid for the views, they losing their lives. And that's it's scary, man. And like I say, don't get me wrong, I listen to more new music than old, honestly, but I don't know. I listen to, I have a select taste. I know how to find artists that aren't necessarily talking about, killing and everything else. 'Cause I don't want to hear that all day. I don't even want to hear that half the time. More than that,
I feel you. Yeah, that YSL case is very interesting. I think as of the recording of this, we're up to 8 people cooperating. In your opinion, there's this Gunna didn't snitch, Gunna did snitch. Everybody's moving the goalpost on this snitching thing. In your opinion, what was that? In your, is that snitching?
It's like this, right? He got up there and he acknowledged. From what I've seen, I don't think I watched the whole clip, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I've seen, the prosecutor XYZ was asking the questions: is YSL the gang XYZ? And he was saying yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, he said yes, ma'am, a bunch of times.
Right. So that's what's messed up about the judicial system. They will say in writing, they'll put it in paper and they'll say, "Hey, you cannot use Gunna's testimony in the court of law." But everybody's already heard his testimony. It's the seeds already planted. And at the end of the day, I'll just say this. I don't think there's a gray area when it comes to it. Whether you want to call it something or not. If you're admitting that YSL is a criminal organization and enterprise, then you're essentially sending somebody all the way up the creek. So, because you're acknowledging what your co-defendants are going to be trying to defend themselves against. And so I don't know how that's not cooperating, but I don't know, and if I could say one more thing,
please, shit,
I'm not the guy. I said, if you're a civilian and you don't live the street life and all that, you should definitely call the police.
Right.
You should. there's no way somebody breaks in my house presently, and I don't care. People can feel how they want. I'm calling the police.
Same here, man.
But right, but if you're in the streets and we talking to the street guys, you got to know that if you're not a snitch, you're gonna get snitched on. So there's no win. If you're a real one, if you listen to this, if you're a real one, if you a gangster and you all that, it's one or two things. You either gonna snitch or you gonna get snitched on. And if you don't snitch, they're gonna hit you with a number because everybody else done snitched on you already.
Please listen to this, man. Please, kids. I mean, I did a poll on my show. I've asked every person who's done prison time on my show, and they said 80 to 90% of people are behind bars right now because someone, because they're whatever snitched on them. So it's like, kids, what do you're ride or die homie. That's my dog. He's my homie for life, blah, blah, blah. If he's facing football numbers and he can't see his kids anymore, he's most likely going to tell. Is that safe to say in your opinion?
Easy. You sitting there and you're going to be like me. I'm in front of the detectives and I'm telling them no. And the next room over, your co-defendant is going to be on the phone with his baby mother, his kid's mom, and my dogs are going crazy back there. But he's going to be, your co-defendant is going to be on the phone, and she's going to be telling them, baby, you need to come home. Just tell them what they need to know so you come home. I got a good meal. I got the bed's warm. Your baby crying. And guess what he going to do?
You already know.
And and even if he felt bad about it, you won't know because you won't see him no more. So that's what everybody's screaming gang is not gang under certain circumstances, most circumstances. It's only cool to be gang when it's fly, when it's comfortable. When it gets uncomfortable, that's when you're gonna find out who gang is. That's how they say.
Christopher Life Willers, I want to thank you so much for coming on my show, and I encourage everybody out there to follow this man's journey. I only see positive things happening in your future, and I just want to wish you the best. And I want to encourage you. I know you have your YouTube channel. You're almost at 1,000 subscribers. You're at like 865 or something like that. My advice to you is to please put out as much content you can on your YouTube channel. I started my channel, seriously, just about 3 years ago, and just put my all into it, and I'm at 35,000 subscribers now, and I'm telling you this because I think you could get 35,000 subscribers way before I did, because you have a story, you tell it well, and you're very knowledgeable and you're entertaining, and your story is amazing, bro. So that's my advice to you. If you can, just put as much content on your YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or if you need some advice, I've done everything wrong twice on YouTube just by learning. So now I can tell you how to do it right.
I was just about to say, I love to learn, and I love to network, and I love advice. So
I will give you 2 hours of my time just randomly if you hit me up. And I give people this all the time, and maybe 1 out of 10 people will take me up on it. And I'm telling you right now, I'm reaching out because I feel like you have a message that needs to be heard. So if you hit me up offline saying, teach me, I promise you we will set a date. No strings attached. Boom, I'm going to give you the game, man.
I definitely appreciate. I'm gonna send you a text as soon as we get off here. And
Sounds
get
good. Sounds good. Well,
thank you, man.
You got it, man. Well, that being said, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah. Okay. So on YouTube, easiest way, D100 TV, no spaces. That I should pop right back up or that screen on YouTube.
That's D100, right? D100. Yep. Cool.
Yep. TV. On IG, it's D_100_TV. And on TikTok is D100 TV. But whatever you find me on one place, I'm on Facebook as well. We got a group chat. We got a different type of community over there as well. You'll see stuff in regards to mental health, prisoner rights advocacy, and you'll see my story, but you'll also see the story of guys like Jefferson Elliott who's fighting for his freedom. We've currently got 188,000 signatures on the governor of Virginia's desk right now. And you'll see the stories of countless other individuals that have given me the honor to reflect their stories, as well as mine. And we're just trying to wake people up and push the narrative, change the conversation, and see if we can really change some things. And I always say we, because anybody that supported the content, it's only possible because you guys. That's it.
Man, thank you, bro. And let's definitely stay in touch. Attention to all gang content YouTubers and creators out there who want to be
all in the video, all on the record, dancing.
The cops are watching. The feds are watching. And in due time, they're going to slowly start arresting your asses. Now, you've probably heard of the hip hop police, a group of officers who follow around high-profile gangster rappers in hopes of catching them in crimes that they talk about in their songs. Well, get ready for the YouTube police, because they're coming. This is directed to a certain sector of the YouTube content creator community. I'm talking about the ones who are active in the street and who are bringing that activity online. Going back and forth with other YouTube content creators who happen to be from a different gang than you are. Telling your YouTube subscribers what you're going to do to that other YouTuber when you see them in the streets. Yelling your hood out every chance you get. Saying you're, quote, still with the business. Well, genius, the cops know your face, and they know due to some of your content, you most likely will have a weapon on you if they pull you over. So what do you think they're going to do when they see you out in the streets? Bad boys, what you want? I don't want police getting any idea that I'm part of any gang or affiliated with them. That's why I don't like putting my face all on camera. I mean, every once in a while I do, but I'm not one of these guys on YouTube with a big ego that needs to be
all in the video, all on the record, dancing.
When you come across my platform, you can automatically see that I'm about change, progress, growth. I ain't about the shit, which is why I may not be as big as a lot of these channels out there who are engaging in YouTube drama. And the sad part about this genre of YouTube content is I see a lot of you on YouTube who claim to be for change. You claim to want to save kids' lives. You claim that you aren't bragging or boasting about what you used to do, when in fact, that's exactly what you're doing. You can't be righteous in one video. Then in the next, you're talking about F this op and F that channel because he's from over there on the other side of town and we don't get along and yada, 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 yada. And the worst part is a lot of these content creators who are putting out this message, they're over 30 years old. They're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And you wonder why these kids are out there acting an ass. Look who they're looking up to. On another note, YouTube beef is corny, bro. YouTube beef is the epitome of corny. Especially when you both live in the same city. Niggas be on live like, where you at? Drop your location. Nigga, where you at? Drop your location. Nigga, you know where I'm at. Nigga, I'm outside. Nigga, we'll come outside and drop your addy. Nigga, you drop your addy first. Nigga, I ain't dropping mine till you drop yours, nigga. Use a mark, nigga. I'll pull up. Well, pull up then. Well, drop your addy, nigga. You drop yours first.
Bitch, shut the fuck up!
Most of you are clowns, goofballs, and weirdos. I get compared to certain channels sometime, and I think to myself, hell nah. I am not them, and they are not me. You'll never see me get involved in any YouTube beef because that shit is straight corny. And not only that, I know that it puts you on the radar of the YouTube police. And I ain't trying to be nowhere near their radar. Dusty Vision Radio is a different type of channel. I'm not here to glorify shit like a lot of you do. I'm here to change the world, man. I'm here to change all the killings that are going on in our community, all throughout the country. Because if we don't stop killing each other, we are going to be extinct, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just a joke. I mean, black people are going to be a thing of the past. We can't do this for too much longer without that happening. It's simple mathematics. I mean, every Monday, I go to the news, I search certain news sites, and I'm seeing how many people are getting shot every weekend. How many people are dying every weekend in the hood. We really need to figure this out because we're not going to be around too much longer. And these YouTubers are not making it any better. And trust me, the cops are watching. Every cop, every homicide detective, every law enforcement officer, every person who works for the feds has an Instagram account. They have a YouTube account. They're on TikTok. They're especially on Clubhouse. Gone are the days where a police officer has to go knock door to door with his legal pad and his pencil, and gone are the days where he has to go knock door to door and ask for information. Hey, do you know this person? Do you know that person? Can you point me in the right direction? Back in the day, they used to have to knock on doors. Now, these cops are kicking their feet up in their air-conditioned police departments, and they're just scrolling up and down YouTube. Which YouTubers are beefing today? Oh, such and such versus such and such? Well, we kind of know where such and such lives because he claims that he lives in this area. So we're going to patrol that area. We'll keep an eye on such and such. And we already know his face because he's on YouTube every day and he has 80,000 subscribers and he has 150,000 subscribers. So we know him, and we also know that he's beefing with such and such on the other side of town. So why don't we do this? Let's keep a close eye on such and such on this side of town, and we'll keep a close eye on such and such on this side of town. And if anything happens, shit, we'll just arrest them both, and we'll get the answers we need. You guys are making it so much easier for the cops and the feds. And then you want to blame snitching. Like, you want to blame, like, say other people are snitching on you. Do you go on your account every day and you basically give feds, police, you give them all the information they need. And you're bragging about it. So if you ever go to court, something happens to such and such down the street, that op YouTuber that you don't like, something happens down the street to him, you're going to be the first person they come at. And guess what? They're going to have hundreds of hours of videos of you talking shit, saying, man, F that op, I don't like him, such and such. Well, such and such is dead now. And you're our only suspect. And yes, YouTubers will start talking. If they aren't already, they will start talking to the police. And they even know sometime what to give the police in their videos. Let's talk about your Downey years.
Yeah.
Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly about going to Downey High School.
The good was meeting lifelong people, lifelong friends, having experiences like getting signed by our independent record label, having experiences like performing on just about every club in, you know, fucking Hollywood, and being a Downey superstar.
We were there for a second, huh?
That's what it felt like. You know, those Downey years, I lived when we formed State of Mind, just to put it all in perspective. Me, you, and Bone, you know, on Hub City. What's up, Hub City? You know, shit, I thought we was going to blow up. Downey was cool. You know, we had some issues related to race, unfortunately. And like I said, when I first, you know, came out here, I definitely felt it. But ultimately, Downey was a good time in my life. I can't really say too much bad shit about Downey High as a whole, other than some of the race shit that we were dealt with. But, people that are still young, that are Latino or black or whatever the case may be, they still run into that. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be ignorant fucking people. And you have to live your life and navigate through life and know how to fucking weed people out. So that's probably one of the big things that I learned, who to fuck with, who not to fuck with, how to, gauge a white person, an Asian person, an Indian person, whatever that may be. You had a lot of contact with a lot of different cultural backgrounds. And I think that was also beautiful about Downey. I could have ended up going to, if I didn't go to Downey High, I would have went to Centennial High in Compton, which I'm sure would have been a completely different, type of experience. Pretty sure it would have been a good experience as well, but it would have been different, me being somebody who coming from Downey claimed Compton, definitely everybody had their own, SP what's up, everybody kind of had their own, they brought their background to Downey. People that were Crips, they Crips in Downey. People that were Bloods, they Bloods in Downey. And you form your little hookup, and you hang out and you form relationships, and you got each other's back. But Downey was a cool space, a cool place to be. Hanging out in the quad, the cafeteria, had it locked down. Making music, freestyling. Nobody really fucked with us. We didn't fuck with other people. Downey was cool. Lots of good people. Yeah.
We had a lot of fun during that time, music specifically.
Oh, yeah.
We did a lot of really cool things.
And that's the thing. I mean, the whole time we were pretty much at Downey, it almost felt like we were affiliated with a label or a production company. So to be honest with you, I mean, other than football and running track, I kept it music. You had your girlfriends. We was all, trying to pimp and whatnot, but we were rappers, we were musicians. That was the focus. That was the focus. If it wasn't football, a girlfriend, or track, it's music, and music always trumped everything. School, you had to go to school, but I remember getting out of school early to go do a show, or you guys having to miss football practice or coming to a show late in fucking shoulder pads.
Yeah,
we did a gig at the House of Blues. Y'all showed up in shoulder pads, right before the show. So it was sacrifices, but it was all with music in mind, And like it fast forward down to 2024, it's still music in mind.
I give Lewis McKenzie and the McKenzie family a lot of props for keeping me out of the street around that time, keeping me out of trouble.
Learned a whole lot about the game.
Yeah, talk to us about how important it was to have a mentor at that time like Lewis McKenzie.
Very important. I mean, I'm a producer and an engineer because I would always sit and study him. We had sessions from the time we were 15 years old. We have sessions that shit lasted for a day. It seemed like, trying to get a hook right, stand in the booth for 6 hours straight. We 17 years old. We're in the studio at 5 a.m. trying to get it in. Dedication. The fact that things will go wrong. The fact that the show must go on. I mean, we've been in situations where, we've been on stage and the mic's cut out or the fucking sound goes out. And what do you do if you got 100 people out there looking at you? Those are the things that we learned in Hub City from practicing over and over and over again. But Lou was pivotal. He was definitely a teacher. Nothing but love for Lou. Lou, when I was 18 years old, gave me my first Behringer mixer. I think it was a 6-channel mixer. First mixer I ever had. And from there, I started fucking with Fruity Loops, kind of got into Cubase. Lou would always use Cubase back in the day. And I fuck with literally every DAW there is. But yeah, man, Lou is one of the big reasons why I got into production, because I would see him make music out of nothing. And he's pull up a guitar, pull up a drum machine, just start freestyling. Like, music was just, it came out of the thin air. It came out of nothing. And I don't know, I always felt like it kind of came easy to me. So when I started doing the same thing, melodies, just things that sounded good to me, I think that's a big part of music with producers. Everybody's going to have an opinion, but I've always been the type to, if I think it sounds cool, then that's good enough. I've never been the type of rapper, producer. I don't make music for you. I don't make music for you. I don't make music for you. I make it for me. And if I think it sounds cool, then I hope you think it sounds cool too. If you don't, maybe you'll think the next one is cool. Or maybe you'll think some shit from 25 years ago was cool. But I'm going to keep doing me. I'm going to keep doing me. But Lou, yeah, man, Hub City was an amazing time shooting music videos. First time we performed at the House of Blues, the Diamond Club, the Roxy. I mean, all up and down Hollywood Boulevard, doing motherfucking interviews on 92.3 The Beat. Like, nigga, I thought we was gonna blow the fuck.